A couple of stories in the news that are mildly interesting or fairly interesting. Marco Rubio's perplexing punt on the age of the Earth. Just because he speaks feelingly about immigrants and the poor doesn't mean the Florida senator is going to step away from the conservative war on science. He made some remarks that he didn't know how old the Earth was, and to say that is just crazy, to say that you don't know how old the Earth is. I mean, it's saying you're rejecting science pretty much. An article here, let's see, in the Atlantic by Garance Ruta. Is Marco Rubio ready to be a leader of the GOP? Well, his remarks on the humanity of undocumented immigrants and the poor show him to be much more in tune with his generation than was losing vice presidential nominee Paul Ryan. Only a year Rubio Sr., Ryan put forward a Randian vision of a nation that does little to lift up the economic losers or newcomers, while Rubio has become a powerful advocate for his yet unnamed strain of forward-looking conservatism. When it comes to the lives of Latino voters, the Republican Party may have no more articulate and reality-based spokesman than Rubio. That's one reason it's disappointing to hear his remarks in an interview with Michael Haney, deputy director of GQ, in a December issue of the magazine. As Haney sets the scene, Rubio knew he would be speaking in the long haul. Writes Haney, I met up with Rubio in the back room of a local community center in Little Havana. He had just come from a GQ photo shoot and was sweating from the early morning heat. Rubio smiles a lot. He likes to put people at ease, but he also speaks with the restraint of a guy who knows everything he says will be parsed and most likely used against him. I've learned that the hard way, he says. You have to always be thinking how your actions today will be reviewed at a later date. So, Rubio, U.S. Senator who sits on the Science and Transportation Commerce Committee, was asked a very basic question that somehow has become a trick question in the Republican circles. How old do you think the Earth is? Pretty simple question. Well, he says, I'm not a scientist, man. I can tell you what recorded history says. I can tell you what the Bible says, but I think that's a dispute among theologians, and I think it has nothing to do with the gross domestic product or economic growth of the United States. I think the age of the universe has zero to do with how our economy is going to grow. I'm not a scientist. I don't think I'm qualified to answer a question like that, but at the end of the day, I think there are multiple theories out there on how the universe was created. I think this is a country where people should have the opportunity to teach them all the theories. I think people should be able to teach their kids what their faith says and what science says. Whether the earth was created in 7 days or 7 actual eras, I'm not sure we'll be able to put that answer. We'll be able to ever answer that. It's one of those great mysteries. So here Marco Rubio is clearly acting. He's an actor. He's not saying what he's much smarter than that. He's acting, you guys. He's just acting for the response. There's an astonishingly large number of things wrong in this statement. Some which mark Rubio's greenness on the national stage, some that merely show the extent to which biblically liberal conservatism continues to hold sway over the GOP during the most broadly cultural liberal era ever. This is as blatantly ignorant as the comment by Senator Aiken on rape. Only it's about a different subject. It's blatantly ignorant. So when you have one of the top spokespeople for the GOP saying things like this, he's clearly on stage for his audience. We have no idea who he is. Absolutely no idea. To begin with, Rubio's remarks are not even an accurate description of what's laid out in the Bible. It was not a 7-day process to make the earth. According to the King James Genesis, the earth itself was made on the first day, though it took until the 3rd day for the waters to be gathered together and dry land to emerge. Secondly, scientists estimate the age of the earth from geological research on rocks from this planet, the moon, and from meteorites, not from recorded history. Recorded history only takes us back to the Sumerians in the 4th millennium BC, though the history of art takes us back another 34,000 years or so after that. So the dispute is not between the historical record and theological interpretations. History, theology, also actually quite intertwined at the start of writing. The dispute is between science and the anti-modern strain of Christian theology rejected by leaders of a number of major Christian denominations. There is much scientific proof in favor of evolution, which appears as a reality that we must see, which enriches our understanding of life and being as such. She goes on to say Rubio is not actually wrong, that there have been other scientific theories about the creation of the universe beyond the Big Bang Theory, that there are some questions that are not fully explained by current models. But there is no way to reject the Big Bang model without also rejecting centuries' worth of physics research which sometimes underpins this technological, sophisticated world in which we now live. And while there is necessarily always a certain humility involved in an endeavor like estimating the age of the universe, it's now calculated to be about 13 billion years old, with an uncertainty of only 1%, 13.7 billion. One doesn't expect political leaders to necessarily know things like this, or that the Earth is estimated to be 4.5 billion years old. So they're a little bit off on this. Matt Lewis points to the way John McCain finessed the question of his belief in evolution during a 2008 debate as a model for how Republicans can acknowledge both religion and modernity. They believe in evolution, McCain said. I believe in evolution, but I also believe when I hike the Grand Canyon and see it at the sunset, the hand of God is also there. The vastness and magnificence of nature in the world in which we live gives rise to similar sentiments on many religions. But just because the dawn is beautiful does not mean that we reject efforts to understand what we see in the darkness beyond our world or lack the capacity to discover its origins. I don't think I'm qualified to answer a question like that, Rubio told GQ, but if he wants to oversee the world's premier space program, the high-tech military, the education of today's youth, and policies to address our changing climate, he's going to need to be a little less ignorant. So there it is. Pretty scary when Marco Rubio, one of the greatest speakers of the Republicans, one of the greatest speakers that there is on that side, when he starts saying things like this that are just as ignorant as Todd Aiken, then we have a problem. Houston, we have a problem.